Hi, I'm Nick Hartley. I'm standing for the Green Party for Newcastle East at this election. I'm here today with Lauren, who's a Green Party supporter, and Lauren's had some experiences of the NHS recently that she wants to talk about. So, Lauren, do you want to say a bit about your experiences?
Yeah, sure. I'm 8 months pregnant. I was in hospital about 3 weeks ago on the high dependency unit with two different teams looking after us, maternity and respiratory. Probably within the first 3 hours of being admitted, I was seen by about 25 professionals. I kind of lost count, to be honest with you. But the thing that I think came across to me most was my whole experience of being there was how much of the NHS is run on goodwill and how many of the staff go so above and beyond. It's kind of amazing. But also how we as a society don't value care enough. People in the NHS are chronically underpaid for the most part. It's quite terrifying. I mean, we're literally something that we're relying on from birth to death, and it's just not valued in the way it should be. And that's one of the reasons that I'm a Green Party supporter, is because of the value that is placed on care throughout the Green Party manifesto, because I think that's incredibly important, whether it's done professionally or whether it's a care role, if you're looking after your children, if you're looking after disabled relatives, if you're looking after older people as well. These are all things that as a society we completely rely on, but financially are massively undervalued.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you look at the Green Party policy on these issues, we know that the NHS is underfunded.
Absolutely.
We're calling for that funding gap to be closed.
It has to be.
An extra $6 billion a year into the NHS. But also what you say there about how we undervalue caring professions is something we really need to address. And I think that's where the universal basic income idea is of its time.
Yeah.
Recognising how so many people, not just working in the NHS, but people who are acting as carers with their friends, their family, and not being paid for that role.
It counts as an essential service. I mean, it's literally something like the NHS. It's literally from birth to death. We all rely on it. And the thing that terrifies me is that people just take it for granted, and it can just be taken like that.
No, absolutely, and the Green Party has always stood up very clearly, very boldly about that.
Yeah.
We want to introduce the NHS reinstatement bill, and what we're saying there is we're recognising that Labour, Lib Dems, Tories, they've all brought in legislation that's increased levels of privatisation in the NHS.
Completely.
And by reinstating the NHS as a universal public service with the duty of care from the Secretary of State for Health, ending privatisation, abolishing the internal market, we can make sure it continues to be free at the point of use.
Yeah, universal. I mean, that's a concern about any kind of privatisation, I think, with it. It's fundamentally going to be run for profit. So services that, operations that could be deemed as profitable would prioritise, whereas those essential things, that emergency care, it's not going to gain a profit if you're interested in that kind of area. It's going to get sidelined, and that's what we need it for. It's too important to be left to a market where profit is the motive. It should be about the people who need that service, and they should be the priority above all else. And again, that's why the Green Party approach to the NHS I find attractive, as someone who has experienced it, recently, but also knows other people who've had family who've had to, who've lives have been saved as a result of the NHS.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lauren.
No problem.
We're going to have 3 very safe seats here in Newcastle. We have 3 very safe seats. And so there's a real opportunity for voters to vote Green at this election, to send a clear message, not just on climate change, not just on electoral reform, but also on keeping the NHS a universal public service that's free at the point of use, and for changing our economic system so that carers are valued. So vote Green on December the 12th.